Hi everyone, this is Port Ballentine Marina and we're just about to depart. Have you seen the motor sailors fitted round this place? This is motor sailor heaven. We're going to exit the marina into Kames Bay, and Kames Bay will take us into Rothsay Sound, where we shall hopefully see all the Fifes depart in Rothsay Harbour. We plan on exiting the Sound here and sailing down the Solway Firth here, but we fear it's not going to be a sailor, it's going to be more like a motor, as the wind will be coming from the south head on. What's quite beautiful about Port Ballentine Marina is the fact that the visitors' berths are all open to the countryside, so when you get up in the morning, all as you can see is the beauty of the hills. So you could find yourself thinking you weren't actually in a marina and maybe just a good anchorage somewhere, like the one just outside the doorstep here. As we motor outside the marina and start getting our mainsail ready, we notice there's not a lot of wind. There's a little indication on the water that there might be some, but there's also an indication on the water there might be none at all. So we live in hope. Well, we've got the sails up and we're going to hope that we can sail. There's the tiniest littlest wake out of the back. There's a good forecast, but there's nothing up there hardly in the air. But the cups are just slowly going round, and I'm sure we must be doing something through the water. Well, the bow's cutting through the slightest little bit, so that means we've got steerage, because if we're going forward, we can surely get a grip on it. Well, the wind should get better, but I'm not going to hold my breath, because we're only just making it through the water figure, and we've only got 2 knots on the beam. But 2 knots on the beam's giving us 1.3, so we must have a little bit of tide with us, which is always nice to have. You could almost say we were at drift, with hardly any through the water speed, but we do have steerage. Well, we've timed it absolutely spot on, because these little devils, all looking for some wind as well, they're all the Fifes that have come out of Rothsay. Well, some of them are given up already, and some of them have got the spinnakers out. And some of them I think are just getting ready and going to wait for the wind to fill in. Isn't she a pretty one? Look at the size of that mast. The topsail on that must be absolutely huge. But some of them don't seem bothered at all. Fife certainly designed a lot of boats, and he never designed that one. Or them two, but he did design that one. And they're just getting the topsail ready there, so that should be up in a little bit. Isn't she beautiful as well as massive? Look at that canvas, look at the stitch lines in them sails. It must have took somebody weeks to make just the one. Oh, and we must never forget they designed a lot of one classes as well, so the smaller ones have turned up too. They regularly race the Fifes in Beaumaris by home. This boat's that big, the crew look like ants. I can imagine making that sail by hand, can't you, years ago? Without the aid of a sewing machine. That would have been a lot of stitches. Topsail's nearly up though. Hopefully they'll get a good sail in, if the wind fills in. I can only count 13 crew on this one, and I'll bet you everyone knows a job and has a job. This one's almost got the feel of a battleship coming towards you. It's got that sort of look about it. Take no prisoners look. I guess it may be one of his more famous designs, and unfortunately I don't know what it's called, so I can't help you out. I couldn't even tell you how long it was, but it looks extremely long. Because it's towing about a 25-foot boat for a dinghy. It's probably not a dinghy, it's probably just got no motor. Well, as if by magic, the wind's come, all the excitement's over, we've watched all the Fifes disappear, and we've just tickled off. We're doing 5 knots over the ground, which is really pleasant. So we're saying goodbye to Rothsay Sound and heading our way down the Firth of Clyde. Good stats, 4.8 through the water, 4.9 over the ground. Sometimes you can speak just too soon. There you go. 5 knots the wind's dropped down to. We've dropped to 2.5 through the water and 2.5 over the ground. And this fella's chasing us up the chuff, which isn't too good, because I think we're in his way. He's definitely turning towards us. He's that red Monopoly hotel there, flashing red and blue, just about to hit us, and we can't get out of here quick enough, but we're sticking with our sails. He passes just on our stern, but he does give us enough room. We can breathe again, so that's alright. He's called Butte. What a beaut. Well, it's better to see his stern than it is his bow, that's for sure. Have you seen how steep this hill is on the land over there? You'd need some car to get up that, wouldn't you? Well, that's where we're heading, down there, into the open Firth of Clyde. We're just seeing her sister ship going the other way, and then she's coming back. That marks some shallow ground. It's buoy numbers 13. Typical. We sail close enough in, or should I say motor close enough in, because the wind's gone now. So we've put the sails down and we're motoring along the coast. Motoring can go quite quickly sometimes, especially if you've got something to feast your eyes on, like the countryside. It seems to disappear quickly as long as your brain's given something to do rather than sit at open water. That's Kerry Tonley Point just there. That's a word and a half, innit? And that opens up the last anchorage on Butte on this side, which is Kilchatton Bay. And on the other side we've got the green grass of Great Cumbrae Island, which on the other side of that hides Larg's Marina. Well, just as the weatherman said, the wind's going to pick up now. It started increasing, and we're up to 3s and 4s, it says, from a south or a southwesterly. Well, at the moment it's sort of southeasterly feeling. We're ploughing into it. We've got 15 knots, so that's about 10 knots of wind if we manage to get 5 over the ground. Well, we're managing 4.5, so it's just over 10 knots of wind. Not 100% sure which way we're going to go when we get to the opening yet, except what we've decided is we'll point the boat at 180 degrees, and whichever way the wind favours the boat, whichever side it's naturally more on, we'll turn the boat the other way and take that tack and see where it leads to. That's once we've got through this bumpy bit at the end. Well, the wind's up a little bit, and I think we've got tide against us a little bit. We haven't quite got through the gap yet, and the speed over ground's dropped to less than 4 knots, so that should prolong the agony a little bit more. Just look how she bounces over this little bit of unsettled water. Water, sky, water, sky. Well, I can see another Monopoly house coming, but if you have a look, I'm just outside the road there, and there's a road going down the middle. Well, that road, he's going to take the right hand side of the highway and shoot up there, so we'll miss each other. Now, he's just in this bit of blurred video there on my port side, if you can see him, and I don't know why it's a blurred bit of video either, but there he is. Here he is in the flesh, with little Cumbrae in the backdrop. I'm not going to try and say the name of this lighthouse, I'll just put it up in lights. Okay, we've got open water now, so we're sailing, and the port tack won, so we're going to head towards Arran. That's the plan anyway, so we're off and running. It's a little bit bumpy, but not too bad, but it just means I can't get too close to the wind while there's a little bit of a bump, because my bluff bow gets knocked off a bit. We seem to be covering ground okay, at a fairly good pace, so I'm quite happy. I've just got to now work out where we're going to hit land, or when we're going to have to tack first. Well, here's where we are at the moment, heading here, and it looks like we'd have to tack here, and then here, and then here, and then here to get into Lamlash. Well, that's a load of hard work, so this second tack there, I think I'll sit on that and see where that takes me. Because this is meant to be pleasure, not punishing myself. I'm not trying to break any records. But being the lazy sailor I am, I can sit on one tack and get somewhere. I'd rather do that than tic-tac-toe all day. And the weather forecast may have the wind veering a little bit, which will fall more in our favour to stay on this tack and get a better run out of it. So let's see where we can get to. She's moving along quite nicely, so we've got to get somewhere. And who's doing the steering today? Well, that's my hand, so at least I am having a go. Do I look professional?
I'm videoing you. And you're going, well, look professional.
Do I look like I know what I'm doing? No, I'm not just saying it, she really is. You can feel it within her. You can feel she slips a little bit better to windward. The sails seem to set a lot better to windward. The shape seems to be better in them. We're going quite well there, and we can tighten up a little bit more if we want to and pinch, and we don't need to. Oh, and somebody else has took over the helming. Barry the bungee. We've used Barry the bungee method on lots of different boats going to windward, and they seem to be able to find their own little groove between the wind and the bungee, as long as the bungee is not too strong or too weak, and you can adjust it accordingly. And even with a bit of a lump in the water, the bungee takes control. Well, we're going to leave it and see how far we get. It seems to be doing better than I was doing, so maybe the bungee's the professional and not me. Big building over there, big white thing, wonder what that is. Doesn't fit on the coastline, that's for sure. Well, Barry's been sailing us for about 3/4 to an hour now, and the sea's fallen slight, so his job's gotten easier. So he seems dead happy at it, so I think we're going to leave him to get on with it and see where he takes us. At the moment, he seems to be pointing us towards a harbour. The harbour's called Androssen. I don't know what's there, and I've never been before, but if that's where Swallow wants to take us now with Barry the bungee steering, well, that's where we'll go. I've gone inside for a nice cup of tea. Barry's got everything under control, and I'm just being a little bit mesmerised by the way the water's passing the port window. But it's a nice view, looking at the water, having your cup of tea, which you can't see up unless you go outside, so you can only look down, because we're a little bit heeled, but not a lot. I spot another boat there, sailing past us in the distance, and I can't help wondering what that great big white square is on the corner. I mean, it's probably a nuclear power station or something. I'll have to take a peek on the chart. The wind seems to be getting just a little bit lighter at the moment, but then the winds do vary a lot in Scotland, I've found, and they do change in direction a lot as well. So I'm quite happy to sit on it and see if we pick up again or change course a little bit, because don't forget, we're steering to the wind now, because we haven't got an electric auto helm on, we haven't got a wind vane on, we've still got Barry on the job, and Barry's keeping them sails beautifully filled, telltales where they should be as well. There he is in his line of action, and I tell you what was surprising to me, that everything's so well balanced that if I stand up here and I turn round, look how central that helm is. We couldn't be any more efficient no matter who was helming at this point in time. This is a zoomed shot of that power station. It's called Hunterston Power Station. Seems to spoil the coastline if you ask me. Well, if you look now, the sky's getting a bit better. You can see all the clouds lifted, all the low cloud, and we can just see the high cloud up there and then some low cloud in the distance. But what you can actually see that we haven't seen a lot of these days is blue. And it's lovely to see a bit of blue in the sky. It would almost make me take a layer off, but it's not that warm yet. And yes, The miles are slipping by underneath the keel, and Barry the bungie's doing a grand job. I don't think I'm going to have to do anything at all today, but then it's nice to be the passenger, and especially as the weather's getting nicer. Everything seems to be working out quite well, and I know we're going to get somewhere, and we're not even rushed for time, and we're not even bothered where we get to either. As long as it's somewhere down the coast, we'll be happy. If you look at my green line there, it looks like we're going to go inland of some rocks. Well, inland of some rocks is just rocks. We're quite close to the wind as well. I've pinched us up as best I can do. I adjusted Barry a little bit to help us pinch. He wasn't too happy about it because he said his speed's come down a little bit. If we don't get a course change soon, we're going to have to turn the donkey on. I figure at this point we might be getting a little bit of tide lift to take us away from the rocks, but there they are in front of us. They stretch all the way across, and just a little bit further past that beacon there as well. Well, Barry's now got us pinching, and we're almost losing air out of the mainsail. And as you can see, we're at 30 degrees, and 30 degrees is ridiculously close for Swallow. The speed's dropped off, but we are looking like we're going to clear the rocks. We've got a line past them, which is a good thing, but we've only got 3.5 knots up through the water. But I think that's a little bit of tide lift we're getting, which is pushing us outwards to clear the rocks. Well, we're getting closer. So at this point, using my eyes turn round and say it looks like you're going to pass, because the rocks look quite a distance to our port now, but obviously we're still making towards them. And as we reduce speed through the water, we also make a bit of leeway, and we have to take all these things into consideration as we're getting closer to this lump of rock. As I make Barry pinch the boat a little bit more, as she pinches, because she hasn't got a really deep keel, she starts losing a little bit of grip on the water. So I hope that's not going to affect us too much. Things are all looking good, and it looks like we're going to put a few hundred yards in between us and the nasty rocks without having to make any alterations. So as long as Barry can keep this job up, we're almost there. And you can see the rocks patch all the way out to the green bit, not just the yellow bit. And the green bit's quite shallow and enough to get you, so we've got to stay away from it. As we close up on the rocks, we were thinking the dark patch that you could see, which is clearly land coming out, was the end of the rocks. But now we can see breaking water just past that, which we're only just going to clear. So we're a little bit apprehensive at this moment, and there's the breaking water. And if you actually look, there's quite a few outcrops of rocks that come quite close to us. And the last little group there where there's white water, they're only a couple of 100 feet to our port side. But we have got 4 metres, so we're happy. Well, it's a lovely feeling once you've passed the rocks and they're slipping off in your wake, and you're gaining some clear water underneath your keel. But with all the commotion, we've not realised exactly where we are. There's the port we were actually going to go for, just there on the left, so we're heading much further out now and further down. But there's a lot of daylight left, and tide's favourable for a bit, and wind's favourable for a bit, so we'll sit on it and we'll see where Barry's going to take us. Well, I can see a couple of yachts in the distance sailing towards us, and we haven't passed that many boats today. It seems to me, if we're heading north, everyone's heading south, and if we're heading south, everyone's heading north. I don't know what we're doing wrong, but we're obviously doing it wrong somewhere along the way. Well, the first one to pass us there is a westerly centaur. He's a bit blurry, but that's probably me and not a blurry boat. And I'm not 100% sure what the second one is, but it looks like it should have been well ahead of a westerly centaur. Well, Barry's stopped pinching now, and we've got a good heading for Troon, and we're on 50 degrees, so the speed's back up through the water, nearly 5 knots, but we're doing 5 over the ground gone, so we've got a little bit of positive current. Now Barry the bungee, he's done very well today, and he's give both me and Lisa a day off. We've been so chilled, except for when we had to pass the rocks and we were chewing the ends off our fingers, wondering whether we're going to have to turn the donkey on or tack or change course or what. But for the rest of the day, he's done a blinder. He's kept us into the wind, beautiful. I mean, sometimes pinching, sometimes not. We've been slipping along lovely, and he's not complained once. And that is a good member of crew. and it appears now we've covered a good few yards today. So Troon will be our destination. That's Butte in the distance behind us, and that big lump over there, well, that's all Arran. And we were going to go over to Arran, but it wasn't going to be with the winds. We didn't fancy all that tacking, and I think we made the wise choice at the end of the day. I letting Barry decide and letting him get on with it. He had took us to where he chose anyway, so, and he's done a grand job of it. But I suppose we're going to have to take over at some point ourselves, because we're not that far away now. The wind's getting a little bit lighter and the speed's dropping down a little bit, but we're still making plenty of good speed over the ground, 3.5 knots. We've got less than 5 miles to go now, so at worst it's going to be an hour and a half. And an hour and a half while it's nice out like it is today is not bad at all. It hasn't been that long a journey. We didn't start off at the crack of dawn, and it's mid-afternoon, so we're very happy with that. I am, however, when I look at this water, a little bit concerned that the wind could die down before we actually arrive, making us put the donkey on a little bit earlier than we'd wanted to. And as I look round, there doesn't seem to be too much left of our lovely blue skies that we had earlier. Those unpromising grey ones have moved back in. That's not like Scotland. Well, the airs have really died down now. We've got 6 to 8 knots, just enough to keep the boat moving along at 2 to 3 knots through the water. A tiny little bit of current with us. But look, it's not all bad. Within half an hour, blue skies are back out again, and I'm sure there's a sunshine behind that cloud up there trying to break through. Well, there's a bit of a glistening on the water, so you know what they say. Every cloud has a silver lining. And there's only one way to top that up, yeah, you guessed it. A couple more knots of wind. The wind's come up to about 10 knots, and we're utilising that the very best we can, producing a near 5 knots through the water again. This voyage has been a bit of a mixed bag, when I think that where we started off, with the light airs, nothing going on, then wind on the nose, and then make a decision, and then pick your decision and stick to it, and then plough the rest of the way. With a bungee doing all the steering. Oh, you can't complain at Barry, he's pulled the blinder today. And Swallow, like always, she just goes on, eating whatever's in front of her, getting on with the job. Well, the conditions at this moment in time are absolutely ideal for cruising. We've got sunshine, we've got blue skies, we've got full sails. We're not going directly into the wind, but we're close to the wind, but that's good enough for a nice motion. It gives you a nice groove to sit in, and she's flying along. This is top sailing. Well, that be Troon, and she's closer than she looks. She's 2 miles off at the moment. The rings are set at 1 mile each there. We've still got a beautiful 11 knots of wind, and we're still making 5 knots through the water, which is fantastic, and a little tad more over the ground. The air falls a little bit light on the last mile, but it doesn't matter. We've had a cracking sail today, and that's the way into the marina, just there that you can see by that little lighthouse on the end of the wall. Well, as luck would have it, the wind hasn't deserted us. It's gone almost to nothing, but we still got moving through the water and a little bit over the ground. So we've made it all the way by sail. After our motor initially though, don't forget we did motor initially, but we've had a cracking sail across this part of the Solway Firth. And with less than a mile to go and only 6 knots of wind, Swallow just don't give up, and she just wants to get there. Gotta give this girl a gold badge. Well, we've now arrived, so we better get the sails down and get the donkey on and make our way into the marina. Now, we're not a million miles away from the end of the video now. In fact, it's just around the corner. But I must give you the little warning. I don't actually end this video where it ends. I add a little bit onto the end of it, and all as it is that I added onto the end of it is while we were in Troon, there was a little bit of an event going on, and I put it on. And I don't normally advertise events or anything else, but this one I thought was really good. It was because it was a voluntary event run by taxi drivers from Glasgow, and what they do is every year they pick a day, dress up their taxis to look a little bit after themselves, and go round Glasgow and collect all the kids with special needs, and they take them for a day out to Troon, to the beach, and Troon welcomes them with an open heart. Well, back to the video. Here we are, slowly creeping in, and you can see the size of the wall there. It's huge, and the gap in it is massive on the end there, so you won't have any trouble getting into this marina. These walls were obviously designed for much bigger vessels than Swallow, but rest assured, as soon as you're in through that gate, you're in a safe haven. There's a huge lock as soon as you arrive through the gate, and the huge lock is an ideal place really for you to sort your lines and your fenders out, although we've done ours out at sea. Now we've called it Ed, and we've got a berth, and we know where we're going more or less, although I will go and grab my pilot book because I need to know which legs where, and that's the only bit that I'm normally concerned about when I'm going to marina, is which leg am I heading for, and the easiest way to look at it. Now there's a boat in front of us now, and I think he's just gone in the water. That's J-Mac's boat. It's called Serenity. It's a Hind 31. As you can see, he keeps her in really nice condition, and he's just done a load of work to her, so I hope he has a really good season ahead of him. Hind makes some lovely boats indeed. Hi J-Mac. Right, so welcome to Troon everyone. Like to take this opportunity as usual to thank you all for watching. It's most appreciated. It certainly wouldn't be worthwhile making any of these videos if nobody were going to watch them. Anyway, I've got my book in my hand and it's telling me which leg I've got to go down, and we look for the legs between us, and when we find the leg we shoot down. The next job is to work out where the hell the berth is. Well, our berth is right down the bottom of this leg on the right hand side, so we're ready for it. It's like a perfect day when you've had wind all day, and then when you get into the marina it's dropped down to next to nothing, so that you're not going to get blown all over the place while you're trying to pick up the berth. I think this is the only place on a voyage that you really don't want to rush. You want to take as much time as possible to see if there's any currents moving the boat to port or starboard, to check which way the wind's going to blow you. Lisa poises, waits for that pontoon to be underneath her foot before she takes the step. There she goes, she's got it all in hand. Well, all we got to do now is a blast in reverse and it'll stop the boat, hopefully. I stare at the pontoon while I do this so I can see when the boat's stopped, and then that just lets me step off. When we're both off and we've both got a line in our hands each, that's all done. The rest of it's just neatening up. This is me standing on the roof of Swallow, doing a 360 so you can see what it looks like in the surrounding areas. Notice a lot of blue sky, which is really nice to see. Still some puffy clouds over there though. I'm sure they've got plenty of water in them. Over there's the way out of the marina, and over here there's a pub, the officers, a little bit of a chandlery, and somewhere to eat and drink. So there's everything you want on your doorstep. Don't forget there's a bit of bonus if you want it coming after this, but otherwise it's the end of the video.